Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Virtual College Exploration for all North and South Carolina students, sponsored by the Carolinas Association of Collegiate Registrars and Admissions Officers, more commonly known as CACRAO, and our partner StriveScan. Thank you so much for joining us. A few housekeeping announcements before we get started. You can use the Q&A button to type a question to our presenters at any time. It is private, only the presenters can see your questions. Your camera and microphone are off, so the panelists cannot see or hear you. This is just one of many sessions happening this fall, so be sure to check out the full schedule at CACRAO or CACRAO.org. This presentation is being recorded and will be available in about a week at the same website, CACRAO.org. I'd like to now turn it over to our presenters. Thank you so much for joining us today, Davidson.
Thank you, Mara. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. We are always really appreciative of students who are willing to jump on yet another Zoom call at this point in the year. So thank you so much for being here. My name is Meredith High. I'm an Associate Dean of Admission at Davidson. I've been at Davidson since 2015. So very glad to be here with you all this morning and super excited to share a little bit about our institution. I want to start things off by acknowledging that we won't be able to cover everything there is to know about Davidson in the next 45 minutes. We know that, but we are going to leave you with some resources of how to learn more and how to stay connected. So know that that will be the way we wrap up our session today. But today we're going to hit some highlights and talk about some things that are really core to who Davidson is, what you might expect to find as part of a Davidson experience. Please submit your questions in the chat as we move through our session. We will work really hard to answer them as we talk about different topics. We'll also be in the background answering questions via chat. So we are going to work our hardest to get all of your questions answered, as many of them as we possibly can today. So we look forward to hearing from you. With that, I want to turn it over to my colleagues to introduce themselves. I'm joined by a colleague as well as two Davidson students. So you all are absolutely in for a treat. We have Alex, who is from South Carolina, and Laura from North Carolina. But Megan, I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce yourself next.
Hi, everyone. Welcome, and thanks for spending time with us to learn more about Davidson. I'm Megan Olson-Malone, and this is my 4th year at Davidson. And then, Alex, do you want to introduce yourself briefly?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. My name is Alex Marsico-Viteri. I'm a senior at Davidson, Hispanic Studies major and Educational Studies minor with the intent to pursue law upon graduation. And I am from the Indian Land, Fort Mill area of South Carolina.
Hi, I'm also a senior. I'm a history major from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Well, just to get started, Davidson College is located 25 minutes north of Charlotte in a town called Davidson, North Carolina. Charlotte is one of the top 2 banking industries in the U.S. It's also the 16th largest city in the U.S. So we really enjoy our close proximity to a larger city. Davidson, the town itself, feels very much like your quintessential college town. It has a really cool blend between the town and the college. There aren't gates up around the college, and there's a main street lined with locally owned shops and restaurants. There's a grocery store within walking distance, a movie theater within walking distance. So lots of great places to eat, ice cream places right in the town of Davidson. We have 1,900 students. Our average class size is 15. The largest class you'll have at Davidson is capped at 35, and the smallest class is 3. A full course load at Davidson is 4 classes, so 32 classes to graduate, and you have until the end of your sophomore year to declare your major at Davidson. And we break your curriculum up into thirds. So a third of your curriculum is going to be your major requirements. A third of your curriculum is going to be what we call your ways of knowing requirements, which is a liberal arts term for your distribution requirements. So we'll ask you to take different classes in areas of thought, like quantitative thought, historical thought, social scientific thought, and you have a lot of flexibility in what classes meet those requirements. And then the last third is up to you. You can add a major, you can add a minor, or you can just take different classes that interest you. You have a lot of flexibility in your last third of your curriculum. Our faculty expect that our students come to class engaged with material, ready to challenge others and be challenged, really ready to disagree with one another respectfully, and ready to connect the dots across different disciplines, because that's what we think is going to prepare you best for the next step. Our 75% of our faculty live within walking distance of the campus, so it's really common to see our professors tutoring students on the weekend in the union. I don't know a senior who hasn't been invited to a professor's house for dinner. And they teach at a small institution because they take the mentorship part of their role very seriously, and are excited to help students decide what they want to do at Davidson and beyond. Alex, do you want to talk a little bit about just your experience with faculty at Davidson and your academic experience?
Sure. So outside of their extreme care and concern for students as the person versus just you being a student in their classroom, another really neat thing is with those close relationships that faculty are getting to know you as a person and your interests, they're also able to invite you to go on to different projects and research initiatives with them. So this summer I was invited by a professor who knew me from class and knew my interest in equity to do a project called the College Crisis Initiative, which is addressing college reopening plans in the pandemic that we're currently in. And we are actually one of the leading sources now on college reopening plans and that kind of reaction to the crisis. So that's been a really neat experience. And it's also something that I got to have as an undergrad student. So that research opportunity didn't just go to a graduate student. Professors are really looking toward us as undergraduate students and toward us as also colleagues of their own. That's another thing that I've really enjoyed is that idea of professors looking at me as a colleague and a student and a person, all of these things at once.
Awesome, thanks, Alex. And like Alex mentioned, we are an undergraduate institution only, and so all of our resources are focused on your 4 years at Davidson, which also means you'll have graduate level research as early as your freshman year. So students can conduct research inside of their major, outside of their major. Similar to Alex's experience, a professor can invite you to be a part of their research team and co-author book chapters, journal articles with professors, lots of opportunities that way. And typically, those types of research opportunities are just a springboard when it comes to research at Davidson. We also have something called the DRI, which is the Davidson Research Initiative. And that's where students get to create a proposal and tell a professor, hey, I like what you're doing. Would you like to partner with me on my research? And the college funds you to conduct your own research in the summer months. Laura, do you want to talk a little bit about your research experience as well?
Yeah, so as Megan mentioned, there are several different types of research that you can do at Davidson. There's independent research projects that you can either do over the summer or as a senior conducting a thesis, which I'm doing right now, on parental reactions and responses to Brown versus Board of Education in the 1960s and 70s. But you can also do a lot of research as part of courses at Davidson. A lot of upper level courses are very much centered around research. So for instance, the spring of my sophomore year, I participated in a history research seminar in which we all collaboratively, there were 9 students in the class, we collaboratively researched and produced a documentary film on the history of race and slavery in Charleston, South Carolina. And 2 of the students from the class actually received funding from the school to continue that research over the summer. And so they worked with our professor, with a filmmaker who was at the documentary film program at Wake Forest University, and then the 2 students themselves, they worked on that project over the summer. So there's a lot of different ways that you can either assist professors on their research or pursue projects on your own.
Absolutely. And Laura highlights something really important about research at Davidson, which is that there is an abundance of grant funding to support it, and some of it will allow you to travel. Laura's project was traveling to Charleston, but we also have students who travel internationally to pursue original work. So I want to highlight another program. Our Dean Rusk program allows students to have travel grants to support any kind of experiential learning that's going to happen outside of the country. So perhaps we have a student who's studying something related to public health in another country, or they're studying global health, or they're looking at a trend in another part of the world, and a critical part of their work is engaging with that part of the world. Davidson will fund research internationally through the Dean Rusk program. So that's a little bit of a different way for students to have an international experience. We also offer a really cool program called Meet My World, which allows our domestic Davidson students to travel home with an international friend for a minimum of 2 weeks. And this program is incredibly empowering in the ways that it allows our international students to serve as a host in their home country, instead of being the guest in the US. And so that's a really important, empowering program for our students to deepen their connections and add an additional way for them to see another part of the world. But of course, Davidson also offers very traditional study abroad. We're really excited to see that about 75–80% of our students leave the country at some point while they're enrolled at Davidson. So we are very excited to see them get out of here for a little bit. Davidson faculty run programs everywhere from Western Europe, looking at England, France, Germany, Spain, to China, India, Ghana, Zambia, Peru. They're all over the world, but Davidson offers about 150 approved study abroad programs all over the world. The great thing about approved programs is that financial aid goes with you and credit transfers back to Davidson. So these are designed to be very seamless and to allow students from any major, any background to study abroad, have international experience while staying on track to graduate in 4 years. So lots of international opportunities. Of course, we think about opportunities beyond the classroom, beyond just studying abroad. We also want our students to have pre-professional and internship experiences. We see those coming primarily through a few sources. One is our Center for Career Development, which is incredibly open to students and works with them as soon as they step foot on campus. They have developed a series of roadmaps, which essentially guide students in how to engage meaningfully in developing career goals throughout their 4 years at Davidson, rather than just stopping in spring of their senior year and saying, oh my goodness, I need a job upon graduation. They engage our alumni network really beautifully. They engage the city of Charlotte, which is a major resource for us in pre-professional opportunities. They are part of a consortium of schools which yields us internship opportunities. Davidson students have access to a resource called Handshake, which is an online database that they can peruse, look at opportunities, work with career staff, find an internship resource that's going to serve them really well. In addition to offering opportunities that come to Davidson, we also have some more structured programs. One is Davidson in Washington, which is an 8-week program in Washington, D.C. It's led by political science faculty. Students intern during the day and take a seminar course at night. So they are earning credit in addition to pre-professional experience. We also run a program to Silicon Valley, which allows students to engage with innovation and entrepreneurship. That's something that Davidson is thinking about really critically, leveraging our location just north of Charlotte, a city that has quite a bit of energy around innovation and entrepreneurship and startup companies. Davidson is connecting students with mentors, with extracurricular courses around pitching ideas and starting startups and learning about lean startup thinking and ways to engage with their original ideas. So they can do that while they're on campus or through the semester program in California. So lots of great opportunities for students to intern, leveraging the Center for Career Development, our alumni network, which is second to none, and faculty relationships and networks as well. So lots and lots of opportunities to get beyond the classroom at Davidson. Okay, I love talking about the innovation and entrepreneurship work at Davidson because I think what it really emphasizes and underscores is that Davidson is a place where you are encouraged to take risks, right? When you try something completely new, you are launching a new idea, you're throwing out a new business, you're taking a risk. You don't know how it's going to turn out. You might fall flat on your face, and that's completely okay at Davidson. Davidson is a place that wants you to learn. Risk is not necessarily a bad thing. It's a necessary part of learning. Davidson is a very collaborative, very supportive environment, and I think that emphasis on taking risk and the comfort that our students have in taking chances is rooted in the ways that the honor code on campus really changes the culture. So I want to talk about Davidson's honor code because it's a very integral part of the Davidson experience. The honor code essentially says, I will not lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those who do. So it's pretty straightforward in what it covers. The degree of campus buy-in that we see is absolutely extraordinary. It allows us to operate as a campus where the default assumption is trust and that everyone around you is doing their work with integrity. So as you might imagine, it allows students to have quite a bit of personal freedom in terms of leaving their bikes unlocked, their backpacks unattended, their laptops in the library while they go get a bite to eat. That's very freeing, but it also changes the relationship between our students and our faculty. We see take-home tests being the norm throughout the semester. Our students also enjoy self-scheduled final exams, which are unproctored. So at the end of the semester, they have about a week to finish their semester up, and they do that on their honor. But one of the most important things I think the honor code allows is an intentionality around the decisions that students make and the ways that they choose to conduct themselves, and a substantial shift in the ways that it changes relationships between students. It makes Davidson a really collaborative, supportive place where students can push themselves without being cutthroat and competitive. So Alex, do you want to speak a little bit to the honor code and how it impacts student culture?
Yeah, so another really neat element about the honor code is that our honor council is fully run by students. And at first that might sound a little scary, but I think that what it gives us is, as Meredith alluded to, this liberty and also this idea of assuming best intention. I think with everything at Davidson, being able to sign on to this honor code also binds us in a culture of trust, accountability, and comfortability. So there is that assumption of best intention. And just a quick little anecdotal story. I remember my first year, I found like $1 pinned up in our laundry room. And I know that that sounds like such a simple thing, right? Like somebody dropped $1 and somebody's pinning it up. But I think it was really eye-opening to me because it showed that even in the small elements of Davidson, students are looking out for one another. So this idea of honor code is not as abstract as sometimes it may appear to be, but it really is rooted in our day-to-day actions. And I think that that's a very special element about Davidson and the student culture it creates, and also the faculty and student relationships, because there is that trust and there is that assumption of best intention.
Yeah, and I think when you ask anyone what their favorite part about Davidson, what their favorite part about Davidson is, it's the community. And so that's what we're so excited to be a part of. And I think the honor code is a really big part of that. And I think the fact that we're a residential campus is also a really big part of that. So Davidson is a residential campus. Students live on campus all 4 years, and housing is guaranteed. And students are really the drivers of fun on campus. So whatever students are interested in on campus, that's what's going on. There's so much to do on campus. We mentioned close proximity to Charlotte, but on average, students are going to Charlotte about once a month for a larger event, a cultural event, a festival, an athletic event, because there's so much to do on campus. And Meredith mentioned earlier that one of our students really take risks at Davidson, and this really happens with our student activities as well. Students will often get involved in activities that they never thought they would get involved in, or just try something different their senior year, which was one of my favorite things about Davidson students. We had a football player that had 0 dance experience, and at the end of his senior year just decided to try out for a dance team and did dance in his final year of college. And so there's over 200 student organizations for students to be a part of. There are social justice organizations, cultural organizations. We do have a Greek life at Davidson. We have over 30 clubs dedicated to community service, which is a really big part of being a Davidson student, is giving back to your local community, and then also having a global perspective as well. Club and intramural sports as well. Alex and Laura, do you want to talk a little bit about the clubs and organizations you're involved in student life at Davidson?
Yeah, so I'll jump in with kind of 2 types of experiences, and then Alex can talk about a few of the other opportunities. So one of the organizations that I'm very involved in is the Davidson History Journal. This is a publication which is housed underneath the history department, and it's a student-run organization in which we collect and edit pieces from Davidson students, and then produce a semesterly publication, which allows students to publish at the undergraduate level, which is a really cool opportunity. This is just an example of one organization that's within the history department, but several other departments have their own organizations. For instance, the Africana Studies Department houses the Sankofa Journal, which is also a student-run publication. So there are a lot of different ways to get involved specifically within your department. Another type of involvement that you can get involved with at Davidson is community service. So we have the Center for Civic Engagement, which can help you to find different service-related activities in the area and kind of connect you with those opportunities. About 90% of Davidson students will be engaged in a community service-related activity during an academic year. So that very much would be a kind of big part of your experience coming to Davidson. I personally have been involved with the Ada Jenkins Center. This is an after-school enrichment program where I go and I tutor elementary school students in reading, mathematics, writing, kind of whatever subjects that they need, homework help, all types of stuff. And that's been a really amazing opportunity for me, both as someone interested in education, but also just in having a way to really get involved with the Davidson community and the area around Davidson. But I'm going to hand it over to Alex to talk a bit about her own experience as well.
So another part of social life at Davidson does include Greek and Greek-like organizations. We have 4 NPHC organizations on campus, which means National Panhellenic, historically African American. We have 2 MGC organizations, which are Multicultural Greek Council organizations. We also have 4 eating houses, which are done by a self-selection process. And when I say Greek life, I am referring to eating houses on campus for female identifying students or non-binary students. We also have 6 IFC fraternities on campus as well. And I will go into a little bit more about how that impacts culture, because we do have an inclusive campus. So even if students are involved in Greek or Greek-like associated organizations, we do also have this kind of culture of inclusion. So there are no events that are closed off or excluded to specific houses on campus or specific organizations on campus. They are open to the entire campus population. An example of something that might be a little bit more private is like a formal or semi-formal where you have to have a specific invite list and things of that nature. But I am a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. It has been an integral part of my experience at Davidson, as a lot of social justice and community service work comes out of our organization. But again, I didn't join that organization until my sophomore year. So there isn't this idea that, oh my gosh, I have to be involved in Greek or Greek-like associations to have a social life at Davidson. As Laura mentioned, there are so many ways to get involved. I've gotten involved in religious life at Davidson, in community service events, and also in terms of the union board that we have as well, that are constantly curating different events for students to be engaged in. So we have something called Live Thursday every Thursday, where students can take a little study break and watch other groups, whether those be student improv groups, chorale, a cappella, etc., and just kind of have a break on their Thursday evening. There are also a lot of really fun annual events like Build-A-Bay during the Valentine's Day period and Winterfest. So there are a bunch of events to kind of get involved in on campus outside of these traditional clubs and organizations. And also, as Laura mentioned, this idea of your coursework really influencing the people who you're able to interact with, the connections that you're able to make as well. So there's a variety of ways to get involved in social life at Davidson, and to each their own. You make the most of that experience. So each Davidson student will have a nice little special touch to that social life piece, and not everyone is the same.
Yeah, and I think when you think about social life at Davidson, I'm always blown away with just how much students are doing outside of class and how engaged they are. So know that students are involved on campus. And one of my favorite things about the community as well is we're one of the smallest Division I athletic schools in the country. And so that creates this really unique school spirit dynamic on campus, because you're not just cheering for someone you've seen on ESPN2 once, but you're cheering for a classmate, a friend, somebody that you know. And our town is really supportive of Davidson athletics too, and not just our athletics, our arts events and everything that the college is putting on. And so it's really fun to see the town get behind the events that the college is putting on as well.
Great. Well, I can see lots of good questions coming in the chat. Megan and I want to cover a few points about admission and financial aid, some of those really important pieces to know, and then we will save time at the end to go through the Q&A and be sure we answer as many of the questions coming through as we can. But we want to switch gears and talk about how our process works just a little bit. Again, we won't be able to cover everything, but we want to give an overview. So should we be lucky enough, for you to keep Davidson on your list and for you to submit an application to Davidson, a few important things to know. One is that Davidson is a school that offers early decision and regular decision. We offer 2 rounds of early decision. They're both binding. They're designed for students who know that they want to be here and are looking to go ahead and make that commitment and finish up their process early. Early decision 1 is due mid-November. Early decision 2 is due early January, January 4th this year. Know that there's no difference between early decision 1 and 2. It's just that we know for some students, November feels really early in their senior year, but by January, they've figured out Davidson is where they want to be, and they want to go ahead and pursue that plan. Regular decision is a great option for students who aren't quite sure, want to continue considering through the spring where they might want to land. But know that we don't offer an early action plan. Our early plan is binding. We are a school that reads holistically. I know that's a term that for those of you on this call are probably hearing quite a bit. One thing we try to underscore to students, when we are reading applications, we are incredibly excited to get to know you as a person. We are looking to understand the things that make you tick, the things that energize you, the ways that you engage in your classrooms, the ways that you engage with your peers. So we of course will start with your transcript. We will take a look at the courses you've taken, where you've challenged yourself, where that was available to you, keeping everything in context of the high school you attend. We'll take a look at your grades. But our conversation around the committee table really centers on who you are. It's the reason that we ask for, a few pretty particular things in our application. We of course ask for the long essay, but we also ask for a why Davidson essay. And that gives you this really powerful opportunity to help connect the dots between who you are and what you see Davidson offering, right? Where you find yourself connecting with the community that we have, where you feel like the opportunities we offer are going to serve you really well. So dig into a few things that you really feel like are fitting you in terms of what you're looking for in college through a why Davidson. We ask for a peer recommendation as well. That's one thing we require that's a little bit different. I always tell students we're not primarily concerned with your friend's writing ability, so don't feel concerned about asking your friend who's the best writer. Your peer will submit a form that tells us about how long they've known you, your strengths, your weaknesses, several of your characteristics. It gives us a really important voice as we think about who you're going to be in an honor-bound, collaborative, tight-knit community where you are committed to engaging with other people, committed to engaging with diverse ideas, committed to learning how to ask better questions and kind of flip problems on their head. That's really important for us to know who you are when the adults in your life aren't around. So the peer recommendation is incredibly important to us. We also ask for a list of all the books that you've read in the past year. That's not a quantitatively driven process, but it, again, is another piece that helps us understand what you choose to spend your time digging into in the limited free time that you have. One piece that's important to understand about our admission process starting this year is that we are test optional. So in response to COVID and the inability of many of our students to test, Davidson will move into a test optional model. Starting this year, it's a 3-year pilot. Know that even before this happened, standardized testing was the least weighted piece of our process to begin with. So our process has always emphasized getting a sense of the students who are prepared to come to Davidson, do work in our classes, be successful, but then primarily looking at the ways they will contribute and make Davidson better rather than being metrics driven. So know that our process has never been metrics driven and it will continue to be that way. Megan's going to talk a little bit about financial aid opportunities.
Yeah, so we are a need-blind institution for U.S. citizens and permanent residents, and we have a significant amount of financial aid for international students as well. Need-blind meaning that your family's ability to pay for your education is not something that we know while we're reading your application. It doesn't have any bearing on your admission status. We have something called the Davidson Trust, which is our commitment to meet 100% of your calculated financial need, and we do that through work study and grant money. So we ask you to fill out the FAFSA and the CSS profile, and we'll take information from those 2 forms and calculate what we call your EFC, which stands for your estimated family contribution, so what we think your family will be able to pay toward your education. And we subtract that from the comprehensive cost of tuition at Davidson, and we meet that number through grant money and work study, which is 10 hours a week in an office setting. We are also fortunate enough to offer merit scholarships as well. It's a smaller percentage of our student body who receives merit at Davidson, but we're looking for things that the institution really values for those merit scholarships. We're looking for leadership and community service and bridge building in your community. And so as we're reading your application, we can internally flag you for those scholarships. There's a couple of scholarships that require something a little bit additional. The James B. Duke Scholarship requires an additional writing supplement. We also have the Belk Scholarship, which is our flagship scholarship at Davidson. It covers the comprehensive cost of tuition at Davidson plus 2 study stipends. And for that scholarship, we ask for a counselor nomination, and we also ask for you to submit your application a little bit earlier. You can be early decision or regular decision to be considered for the scholarship, but we just need a little bit extra time to review your applications for the Belk Scholarship, so we ask you to submit them just a little bit sooner. And then we also have departmental scholarships, and those are in areas like visual arts, creative writing, music, theater, Latin. For those, it's the departments that are awarding those scholarships, and so we ask for a portfolio of your work. In general, if you're dedicating a lot of your time to visual art or music, Davidson loves to see portfolios of your work just as an added layer of context to what you're interested in. So please feel free to submit your portfolios because we love to see those. And you might as well apply for the Merit Scholarship while you're at it because you don't have to be a music major or a visual arts major to receive a Merit Scholarship in that department. You just have to continue doing what you love at Davidson.
Absolutely. Well, I think we'll use our last 5 minutes to just give you all some opportunities for ways to stay engaged. But before we get there, I think we want to start working through some of the questions that we've received. One that I would love to go ahead and answer on the heels of Megan talking about the music and fine arts related scholarships is a student asking about the ability to use music production for personal projects. I know that we have had students studying music pursue personal projects. Last year we had a student who was a music major write and record her own album, and that was really fulfilling for her. I think some connection to the music department would be prudent because of course they want to be sure that students using equipment are trained to use it safely, but know that the music department in particular is incredibly open. You don't have to be a music major or minor to sign up for their classes, to be part of ensembles, to pursue your interests. So I would say for a student with interest in music, whether that's music production and pursuing personal projects, I would encourage you to get involved in the music department, build those relationships with faculty. They will be eager to support you and help you pursue that.
Yeah, and I wanted to answer a question while we're talking about admission a little bit. There were a couple questions in here about how do you know early decision is the right round for you? So I want to go ahead and answer that question. So there's 2 options, like Meredith mentioned. Early decision is the binding option. So in order to know that early decision is right for you, you want to know that Davidson is the school where you want to be at. You want to have done your due diligence. You love Davidson. You know enough about us that you can almost conduct an information session, and you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is where you want to spend your 4 years. You also want to have the important conversations with the decision makers in your home about financial aid. So there's something that every institution offers called the net price calculator, where you can fill out your household's income information and understand right in the ballpark of the need-based aid you'll be receiving if you were to attend Davidson. And so that's a really important part to start looking into now, filling out the net price calculator. You want to make sure that you're filling it out for any institution you're applying to early decision. So they are institution specific. So make sure that you're filling it out for the institution you're applying for, but that's a really important part of knowing if early decision is right for you. If one of the answers to those questions is no, if the decision makers in your home aren't comfortable with the financial aid at Davidson, or if you love every college you hear of and you love all the information sessions you attend and you're still not sure and need a little extra time to decide where you want to be, then regular decision is a great option.
Great, thanks, Megan. Yeah, we've got a few more questions related to kind of the admission and financial aid process, so we can certainly work through those. There's one question about, do students come out with a lot of debt, right? So while Davidson does not issue student loans as part of your financial aid award, as long as you apply for financial aid on time, you're guaranteed not to have a loan in that aid award. Some families do choose to take out loans just as a matter of personal preference or what works best for them in terms of how they choose to approach financing a Davidson education. And so there are financial aid staff who are ready and available to help families navigate prudent loan options. I would say about 25% of Davidson students choose to take out loans. But again, that's not because they're being required to do so by the college. It's because that's what works best for them. We also received a question about, is Davidson only for kind of well-to-do families? No, Davidson is accessible to any student, any talented student, regardless of socioeconomic background. And that's a deeply held commitment that the college has made. We actually see that over half of our students qualify for need-based financial aid. So most students who are here and they're receiving aid at levels that actually for a lot of in-state students makes Davidson quite comparable in cost to any of our incredible public in-state options. So know that the commitment is very deeply held. And there's actually an incredible range of socioeconomic diversity on campus, which we believe is really important. As you are in classes, it's really important for you to be surrounded by people who come from different socioeconomic backgrounds than you do. I'm going to go ahead and address the question that just came through. Is regular decision much more selective than early decision? Is there a difference in admission rates? Yes, there is, absolutely. I will attribute this partially to the fact that early decision is a much smaller pool. So last year between early decision 1 and 2 combined, we had 656 applications. So that's a smaller pool. When we're looking at regular decision, we are looking at a much larger pool. We're talking about several thousand. And so when you're making admission offers in a pool of several hundred versus several thousand, that impacts the admit rate in a really significant way. But I will say, yes, statistically, there's an advantage to applying early decision. You're making a commitment. That's something we keep in mind. But the students who come to Davidson via early decision are students who would be competitive at regular decision. So know that there is not a marked difference in strength of student, caliber of coursework that they're doing, ways that they will positively impact the community between early and regular decision. Those students are still really, really competitive.
Yeah, and there's one more admission related question in here that I see asking, what advice would you offer a high school student in order to be competitive at Davidson? And Meredith touched on this a little bit. Of course, the academics have to be there. We look at the classes that you're taking within the context of your high school and the trend in your grades throughout those 4 years. But most of the students that apply to Davidson are academically competitive to attend Davidson. And so Meredith talks about how excited we are to get to know you as people. And I think using each piece of the application to tell us another layer of yourself is really the greatest gift you can give an admission counselor, because we're really excited to get to know you. We get to know you through your writing. We get to know you through your recommendations and through your co-curricular list. And so any way you can infuse your personality and allow us to get to know you through those pieces of the application, we get excited for you. So that's something to keep in mind as you're filling out your application. I think that takes a little bit of reflection and vulnerability, and it takes time to kind of craft that application where you allow someone to get to know you through your writing. So my biggest piece of advice would be to give yourself time, as much time as you can, and play with your writing. And feel free to reach out to your admission counselor and ask questions. If you're confused about something or don't know which direction to take something, we're here to help you through the process. And we also, I'll use this time to talk a little bit, we're offering something called the Davidson Admission Intensive, which is an application coaching workshop series. And that's designed to help students apply to any college. And so topics are about essay writing, interview prep, things like that. So feel free to take a look at the Davidson Admission Intensive if you have admission related questions as well.
For sure. And the only thing I would add is know that the admission intensives are completely free. So you can sign up on our website. You can look at the different workshops offered and choose the ones that interest you, that you feel like will serve you well. Sign up for those and leave the others. I want to maybe answer one more question, and I want to let this be one that our students answer. So Alex and Laura, would you quickly touch on, why would a local student choose Davidson? This question specifically is asking about local students from Charlotte, but as you are both from relatively nearby, I'll let you share your perspective and just add the caveat that we have a lot of students from Charlotte on campus, absolutely. And then what are some cool places to hang out on campus, favorite places to eat? Alex, why don't you jump in?
Okay, sure. I live pretty close to Charlotte, so very close to the Pineville Matthews area, but on the other side of the border in South Carolina. And I can say something for me is just the experience of being a student at Davidson, the opportunities that I've been connected with, like being a Hispanic studies major. I saw some questions in the chat about what are pre-professional tracks at Davidson. And I think that sometimes when people look through our major list and don't see something like marketing or don't see something like business, they could get a little scared and be like, or medicine or something of that nature. But there are so many ways for you to explore those areas and be competitive in those areas upon graduation by having a Davidson education and the kinds of connections that we have. So even me as a Hispanic studies major, I was able to go to the Tuck Business Bridge program also through grant money from Davidson to help support the cost of going to the Tuck Business Bridge program, but I had never taken a business course before. It was all a very new kind of arena for me, and I actually got to interview with a consulting firm through that program. So my education and background in Hispanic studies, being able to think critically, being able to analyze arguments, being able to form my own, actually helped me even in the realm of business, which may seem completely different. So I think that's something for the Davidson student experience outside of, where I could go to eat or the community of amazing individuals that I'm around, is this idea of opportunity and access and the breaking down of boundaries, that I'm not subjected to a silo of I'm doing this, so I have to do this. It's I have the opportunity and liberty to explore this world as I deem fit and have a community of support to help me to see these different opportunities for myself that I might not have been able to see before.
Yeah, just echoing what Alex said, I also live or from pretty close by. And yeah, I mean, it's nice to be able to go home during holidays and things like that. But I do not find myself going home during the semester, and that's just because there's so much to do on campus and always have homework. But yeah, no, it's definitely we have a ton of people who are from Charlotte and they never go home. It's very much a community here at Davidson. We have Main Street, which is what our little downtown, and we have a bunch of restaurants and places that you can hang out there. But I would say I thought I was going to go into Charlotte a lot more than I do, just being on campus. It's nice having it nearby. I went to the archives in Charlotte this morning to do research, and so it's nice having it nearby in case you need to go into Charlotte, but I don't find myself going in as much as I thought I would.
And I will just add too, Davidson owns property on Lake Norman. We creatively call it Lake Campus, but that's kind of another thing nearby that students will do. So students I'm not as outdoorsy as some of our Davidson students, so I typically will just read at Lake Campus, but you can kayak, paddleboard. It's a really fun space for students to interact with staff and professors' families. And so when the weather is nice, especially in the middle of the pandemic right now, that's really been a great outlet for students to spend some time at Lake Campus.
Great. Well, I think we should go ahead and wrap up and provide ways for students to learn more and stay connected with us. So the first thing I will share is that we have dedicated admission counselors who cover every part of North and South Carolina. Megan covers most of South Carolina along with a colleague, Deanna. So you can take a look at our website and see who your admission counselor is, and we encourage you to reach out to them at any time. And then Megan, you already touched on intensives, but do you want to touch on virtual visit opportunities and Discover Davidson?
Yeah, so I think as you're getting to know a college that talks about community and faculty relationships as much as Davidson does, we encourage you to run us through our paces a little bit and connect with faculty and the community, and Discover Davidson allows you to do that. So we'll have faculty that will conduct academic panels, and ways that you can connect with members of our community. So check out Discover Davidson. We'll also have live guided tour opportunities where you can work with one of our campus tour guides and work through the virtual tour. But just know we're here to help with whatever you need and help you in your college search and application process. So please use us as a resource.
Great. Well, I can see Mara back on screen, so it looks like we have hit our time. So we will wrap things up there for today. But we want to thank everyone for being here and echo Megan's encouragement to reach out to us.
Yes, thank you everyone. And be sure to look at our page so that you can get our contact information and reach out with any questions. We're happy to help.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, our Davidson reps, and thank you so much, students, for joining us. When you close this window, there will be a link to a really quick 4-question survey. We'd appreciate any feedback you can provide. Also, this was just one of many sessions being hosted, so be sure to sign up for additional sessions at CACRAO.org. And in about a week, you'll be able to find this session's recordings as well as all other session recordings at CACRAO.org. Thank you so much.
Thank you.